I'm so thankful nobody saw me dancing because I was dancing throughout that whole
I know,
entire.
I was dancing and then I was like trying to take photos and I'm like, oh, be cool about this.
Yeah. So hi everyone. Welcome to the first episode of Let's Stream.
Yeah, first episode.
Amazing. So I'm Maude Michaud.
Chappell. I didn't know how we were supposed to do that.
Well, I don't know. Well, I guess it's a first show. We should introduce ourselves, right?
We'll figure it out.
Yeah. So, well, thank you for joining us. This is going to be our monthly little event. I like to think of this show as like this slumber party, like, that, you all wish we could attend, like, when we were teenagers. So, that's the idea going in.
I love it. I always wanted to have one of I didn't go to a lot of slumber parties as a kid, but I always wanted to be like the slumber party in The Craft, where they would do light as a feather, stiff as a board.
Oh my god, yeah. Okay, funny fact, me and my high school friends, we tried this in the gym locker room over lunchtime in my Catholic high school. Yeah, we got busted, but it's funny. Just
work. Don't know how. It's all magic. But we used to do it all the time at summer camp, and we just, two fingers under each side, and everyone just all of a sudden lifts up a human.
There you go. That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's it. So, well, cheers to you tonight.
Cheers to you.
And thank you for joining us. So if you want, we strongly invite you to go get yourself a drink so you can have fun with us. Ideally, a horror themed drink if you want, or you don't have to. Whatever,
You got handy, beer, wine, just some straight up gin.
Yep. Because that's what slumber parties are for, right?
Who in high school didn't sneak some of their parents' alcohol during a slumber party?
Right. I was kind of like the cool kid who's my parents would be okay with me drinking sometimes, as long as it was reasonable. So I would have slumber party with my friends. Obviously we're talking about older teens, but they'd come over and I honestly legit, I was the only one of my friend who was into horror movies growing up. So I literally kind of forced them all to love horror. So I would invite them over and they'd be like, oh no, but I'm scared. But I'm like, no, but watch this. You got to watch this because I need friends to watch horror movies with,
Oh, that was me. I was always forcing my friends to watch whatever horror movies I could. I'm like, just come and sleep at my place and we'll hang out in my basement and we'll put on our pajamas and I'll get us some alcohol. My parents were not okay with me drinking. So I ended up doing that shit thing where you would steal alcohol and then put water into the alcohol so it made the bottle look like you hadn't taken any, which after a while that bottle just becomes only water and they find out real quick.
Yeah, of course. Why is that so watered down? I don't recall this. Yeah,
exactly. And also, we were towny kids, so we may have gone outside and smoked a bunch of weed, and we definitely were very young. But then I'd make them all come in and we get all of our massive amounts of snacks and then just sit there and I'd be like, all right, tonight we're going to watch My Bloody Valentine. It's a Canadian film and it's amazing.
Yes. Amazing. That's so cool. Yeah. See, with me is I remember I think the first movie I ever made my friends watch was Army of Darkness, which comparatively is fairly tame thinking back on it. But I think I was 9 or 10. I was my friend's come on over, it's so cool. There's fighting skeletons and we just sneak into the basement and I would get these VHS tape that are 8 hours long, and then we just pop in the VCR and then there was the ancestor of Super Channel, back in the days, and they would often have for Halloween these horror movie marathons. So I would just record for 8 hours straight, just all the horror movies. I would play all night. And then be just watching 8 hours of horror films after that. Those were the days.
Those were the days, truly. I miss walking to the local Blockbuster with my little cart and being I'm gonna rent all these horror movies for the weekend and this is gonna be my weekend. Because I also didn't live in the same town I went to school in, so all my friends lived outside of I lived outside of the town that they were all in. So I was cool, I'll just hang out by myself and watch all these horror movies. And if someone wanted to come over and have a sleepover, you totally could.
Yeah,
but just being me watching horror movies alone.
See, it's it's funny because I hear this and I'm I wish I'd known you when I was a teenager. I was where were you? So yeah.
Why weren't we high school friends? Where I didn't have to bring all my preppy friends out once a month. They'd be come sleep at my place and we'll watch something scary. But it'll be fun. It'll be Scream. I'll loosen it up for you.
I know it's funny because Scream, actually, that was one of the movies that I saw this when I was a teen. I was like, I want to be like one of those kids.
I know, where I was like, oh, these kids are so cool that I'm like, oh no, come on.
Yeah, it's like, why aren't my friends like into horror too? It sucks, but yeah.
I know. And also like being in high school and watching movies like Scream and seeing those high school kids, and I'm like, oh, why don't we look like that?
I know, right? Like adult, like 25-year-olds, like playing like 16. Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm sitting there with like pimples all over my face and like the awkward hairstyles I had back then and the weird clothes. I'm like, man, why wasn't I as cool as those 30-year-old kids playing teens in the 90s?
Exactly. And even worse is like the fashion. Like you try to dress the same way as they're dressed in the movies and it never looks that way in real life. You're like, what the fuck is this? You know?
Also during like a period in high school, I was like super gothy and punky and had like different colored hair and it was like short and long and it was all over the place and I wore the weirdest outfits. And I'm pretty sure my mom still has a photo album where every day she would take a picture of what I wore and then put into a little photo album. Like looking back, I'm like, please don't ever show people that.
Yeah.
Wearing like a dress over top of like jeans and a t-shirt because it seems so rocker, or like wearing a corset over top of a band shirt, and I'm like, oh, please don't show people these.
Yeah, no, the 90s.
Oh, good times.
Yeah, good times. So yeah, well, I guess for those who don't know us, maybe we should start. We just like totally like dropped them into the middle of our conversation because this party has been going on before we started recording. People, this is not a secret,
And this is how slumber parties go.
Exactly, right? You just show up, the party's already started. So welcome. There you go. Like grab a pillow, sit on the floor with us or whatever.
Grab the pillows.
Yeah, grab a pillows. There you go.
Pajamas next time and be all like comfy cozy with our popcorn.
Well, it's almost pajama. I mean, I'm wearing a horror t-shirt, so that's cool. Yeah.
I'm wearing a horror shirt that literally like full disclosure, I worked out in this today and then didn't change.
Oh.
But no one's around, so it's okay.
It's okay. Nobody cares. Or maybe people care. Maybe people will want to buy that t-shirt off of you. Who knows,
Yes, do it. I cut the back so it looks like there's a skull.
Nice. Amazing.
Yeah. Got to stand out at the gym. Otherwise, what are we doing there? If you're not dressing for fashion at the gym, like...
I guess I didn't get the memo.
But yes, sidetrack, we should introduce who we are.
Yes. So who are you?
Well, I am Allie Chappell. I'm from Toronto, Ontario. And I am an actor and recent filmmaker. And it's all in the horror genre. And I'm super excited. My short film Verified is currently playing film festivals. And like, it's already won a couple of awards. So I'm very excited.
Congrats.
But otherwise, I'm just a big horror enthusiast.
Awesome.
That was a lame intro. I'm sorry. I'll get better at doing intros.
It's okay. It's all fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I am Maude Michaud. I'm from Montreal, Quebec. This is why I have a weird accent. I am a filmmaker, mostly writer-director. I've been making films since the early 2000s, but mostly doing horror shorts since 2009. And yeah, I've done about a dozen short film, and I've also done a micro budget feature film that I self-produced in 2012 for really little money, like, barely anything. It did pretty well, played on the fest circuit, won some awards. So I've been kind of like, ever since I've been kind of developing other projects and such, obviously I'm a huge horror enthusiast. Even to the point where like I know it's gonna make me sound super nerdy, but I did do a master's degree devoted to horror. So when I did my master's thesis, it was on women in horror. So women horror filmmakers.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so that's it. Little fact that people don't know so much about me, but that was around the time that the first Women in Horror Month was starting. I was also starting to find my niche in the horror community. And I remember being in class and just really looking for a topic, for my thesis. And I was talking about horror and like, about how I did not agree with like, all these like academic texts that were very like dogmatic about the evils of horror and everything. And I was like, well, I'm a woman. I love horror films. I make horror films. I don't see anything wrong with this. I think it's outdated. And then there's one of my classmates, I remember she stood up and she's like, well, you are the embodiment of everything that is wrong with women today. I was like, okay, ouch.
Wow.
But I'm kind of like, well, I'm gonna prove you wrong, So I got started. I figured, well, if I'm not the only. I knew I wasn't the only woman making film, because I'd seen other women at festival. So I just figured I'm gonna fight my way. It took me a while to get the proper backing from the faculty to want to be like, why do you want to write about this? And I'm like, well, it needs to be written about. So yeah.
Yes, it needs to be written about. We need to talk about how there are so many women in horror.
Exactly. And what's really fascinating is not so much just like the experience, but also the type of films that are made by women is so interesting and have such a different voice, and such varied themes and different approaches that are really, really fascinating and very, very much welcome at this point in time. I feel like, in a genre that otherwise tends to get stale very fast with relying on the same similar type of cliches and tropes.
Every horror movie is done for decades.
Yeah, exactly. Which is also a little bit of what we're gonna do with this show, because I mean, as much as I'm sure you like our peppy and bubbly personalities right now, but in the future episodes, we are going to be joined by special guests who are women working in the industry, both in front, behind the cameras, and also in other horror, other cinema adjacent, but horror related fields. So
Yes.
hopefully, yeah, we're just like real slumber parties. We invite our friends from
we're gonna have a good time.
Yeah, exactly. Have fun.
Slumber parties where we're gonna drink, we're gonna bitch, we're gonna gossip a little.
Exactly.
Most of all, we're going to talk about horror and what it means to us.
Yeah. So speaking of gossip, any kind of fun gossip, you want to share, or any kind of things that got you all super excited right now?
Any gossip that I want to share right now? I feel like nothing that pertains to this. No. The only gossip I have is lame gossip. I saw some clips of my new feature film and it looks pretty good.
Amazing.
That's a biased opinion.
No, but I'm sure it does.
The world, people might be like, oh, don't give her money.
Oh, stop it. That's awesome. So tell me a bit more about this. What is your movie about?
It is about a girl who is detoxing off of drugs and becomes isolated in a cabin up north. And it all takes place in Ontario, which is super great. But as she becomes more sober, she begins to see a demon and doesn't know if the demon is real or if it's part of her withdrawals. So it's kind of a story of trauma and addiction. And there's a lot of intergenerational trauma in it. And hopefully it plays well. We used a lot of local actors up north, which I was really psyched about.
That's amazing.
Yeah. When is early 2022? I was like, what year are we in right now?
I know, right?
It fucks me up. I keep thinking it's 2020.
It's never ending March 2020.
Straight up, never ending.
It's just constant.
I keep listening to the Bo Burnham album that he released during COVID, and so much of it makes 2020 references that I'm like, no, we're still in 2020. What are we doing?
Yeah, I know exactly. We never made it out alive.
We never did. We're doing this all from beyond the grave.
Yes, exactly. So any cool horror news that got you really excited or looking forward to stuff coming up?
I am. It's not big news, but I am really excited for Nightmare Alley to finally be coming to theaters.
Nice.
I love me some Del Toro, and I love Nightmare Alley. The original film is so good, and it's finally coming, and I'm like, yes.
That's awesome. See, I know it's gonna be probably an unpopular opinion, and hopefully that's not gonna get people to shut the window down or whatever, stop watching us. I am very excited for Rob Zombie's The Monsters, and I'm only mentioning it. I know it's a bit of old news right now, but seriously, I loved it. I love The Monsters. I mean, this was such a cool show, and I mean, I was really excited, and I really cannot wait to see what he does with it. I think that's going to be an interesting approach, and yeah, and I know we both share a deep love of Sherry Moon Zombie. So
I know everyone kind of shits on her because Rob Zombie makes a film, so she's going to be the lead, and it's what's the problem?
I know.
She's an actor. They're married. He makes films. Why wouldn't he, you know, employ his wife? And also, like, why not keep the money in the family?
Exactly.
And like he said countless times in an interview that like he doesn't feel like a script is complete until she's read it. And it's
I know. I think it's just it is a beautiful partnership that they have going on. And I mean, I also like, I'm gonna be like, full clarity. I have a total like, woman crush on Cherry Moon as well. So I mean, I might be biased, but it's like I'm never gonna complain to see her in anything.
no, not at all. Like I love her. I'll watch Rob Zombie films as if they star her forever, I'll watch them forever. Like that's just how it's gonna go. Like I feel like we're gonna talk about it eventually, but we should just bring it up now. Like Lords of Salem is an amazing movie.
Yeah, it's one of our favorites. We know this. I say how, as in like, yeah, I think at this point we had this discussion so many times.
The book of it.
Again, no, but it's cool. It's like, I think it's those like unpopular opinions. Like I know people, they're like, I know it's very much, it's a much hated movie, but personally I like the fact that if I compare it to the other films that Rob Zombie's made, like, which are very blatant, reference to like existing films or existing genres, it felt to me like Lords of Salem, even if like, I know it does borrow a lot from like, 60s movies and like, European films, like, like the supernatural elements and everything. But it's like, it feels to me like this film has a very like, it has a soul that's like its own, and it kind of feels like watching this movie is like peeking behind a curtain at like what he's really interested in and like what he likes, which I feel like is really interesting. And it felt like it has more of an original or like a unique type of vision, in terms of his work, It
does. But a lot of his work I find to be very, and this is obviously his point, is that it's very exploitative. And there's, so much like gore and violence and blood and swearing. And, Lords of Salem's kind of a slow burn in comparison to like House of a Thousand Corpses or Three from Hell or 31. I will admit 31 I wasn't the most keen on. But like I respect that dude for doing what he does. He makes movies his way, and like a lot can be said for that. And also every good filmmaker, references films that they like and genres that they like and things they like in the past. Like Tarantino does it in all of his films. He's always referencing like other shit.
Yeah, totally.
Like, why not? Like let's see what inspires you.
Yeah, like, exactly.
What inspires you and like elevate it. And I feel like Rob Zombie does that. And like, let's be real, Lords of Salem, even though it's, a downer movie, is very much a love letter to Sherry, being like, here's a movie that's all you, babe. Like only you.
I know. And everything, I feels like the movie really has like genuinely creepy moments, like, and it's just like artistically, like visually, it's a beautiful movie. I mean, I don't know, I love the aesthetic resonates with me, like everything about it. There's just so much layers. Like every time I watch it, I notice something different. And I mean, the soundtrack is just this whole other level. It's like, it gets under your skin, like, even like hearing that song, like the track, from the record, it just feels like, it's like, I feel it in my bones. Like, there's something about it. It's just like, to me, it's just like great craftsmanship, and yeah. Anyways, huge
about Lords of Salem.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, but speaking of inspiration, what I guess we should talk about what inspires us, or like who are our inspirations, or we totally, okay, full disclosure, we totally had a plan for this show, and this plan has like been thrown out the window about 5 minutes, 15 minutes ago, 17 minutes, I don't know. It's been thrown out the window, I think, by the time the counter started or whatever.
So I made the mistake, like I'm drinking wine, and I made the mistake to not bring the bottle directly next to me for refills.
It's okay, just like make it last.
Just made my tiny little bit last.
Yeah. See, I made myself, so one thing I want to try to do my horror cocktail of the month or whatever for our podcast. And like a total dumbass, I kind of forgot to refill the liquor cabinet or get proper mixers. So I was kind of like, oh, what's there? But I did make something that's a little special cocktail for me. I lovingly dub it the Edwidge Finnick, and I'm probably butchering your name or whatever, because this is a drink that I made myself every time I watch most of her movies. Because I've been on a huge like Giallo kick for the past like 3 years, where I just like bought a whole ton of Giallo. That Giallo has always been my blind spot in terms of like film history and especially the horror genre and everything. And then at some point I was like, I want to like educate myself and like watch more Giallos. Like I want to see what the fuss is all about. And then like I just like blind bought about like 40 50 movies from like Arrow Video, from like Vinegar Syndrome, from like Severin Films, like all of those like companies that reissue stuff. And I just like went on a deep dive, being all like, fuck this, I'm watching everything that's Giallo that I could get my hands on, so yeah.
Also, I feel like, I don't know if you can still call it being on Giallo Kick if it's been 3 years. I feel like you just like Giallos now. Like that's like your thing.
Yeah, no, it almost feels like, yeah, you totally right. I think, but I'm gonna blame it on the like never ending like March 2020. It's been a year, but it's really
funny.
Yeah, I know. It's like, I feel like it's just been a few months, but in fact it's been 3 years. Yeah.
Like, oh my God, I haven't, like I'll see someone and be like, oh my God, I haven't seen you in months. And they're like, yo, it's been 2 years. And I'm like,
I know.
Have we been inside for 2 years?
Exactly. But it also, just coming back to Giallo, it just shows how many Giallos there are. It's just like it's never ending.
It just takes up all of your time.
Even he's got to the point where like now I'm gonna watch something. I'm like, wait, have I seen that one? Like, what's the story again? Wait, is that? And then I'm gonna start watching. I'm like, I don't think I haven't. Like, oh yeah, no, that's the one. Because they all merge together. But yeah, all that to say, Edwige Fenech is one of my many horror icons, and I just really love her. She's one of my favorite, like, actresses, and so yeah, I guess it's just like bourbon and a bit of bubbly water, but there's a few droplets of cherry syrup in it, so that's what makes it like, Edwige-ish or whatever. I need to pronounce. I need to learn how to pronounce her name. It's kind of ridiculous, but also like every name probably sounds butchered coming from me because of my accent. But oh well.
No, it sounds sexier because of your accent.
Oh yeah, it does. See, I like this. I like how people they're like, oh, it sounds sexy. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. It makes me feel so much better about myself.
I like border between having like just how I talk now, but if I'm up north for too long because I kind of grew up in the up north area, like I started developing a valley accent and I don't notice it, and people will be like, oh, you need to stop talking like that. You're like, oh, you guys are nuttier than a Tim Hortons maple latte. And I'm like, oh no.
This is so Canadian. I love this.
Yeah, it gets real Canadian real fast.
Yeah, I have this thing where like sometimes some days like if I've drank too much or whatever, I start struggling, and then I fully embrace the French accent and I speak with a Parisian like English accent, and I just for the fun of it, like I start talking like this. Even this is not my regular accent, but it's like I love talking like this because it makes it a little bit more natural when I'm struggling with things.
Oh, but it sounds like it's like compared to like my oat and a butt and the boons accent, like it sounds so good. The more we drink, the more our like natural way of talking is gonna come out.
Perfect. It's wonderful. We love it like this.
A few seconds, run and grab my bottle of wine.
All right.
Here. You can still hear me talking, and I haven't been gone for too long.
No problem. I'll try to entertain them. Oh, wow, that was fast.
Fun little wine capper thing. That's like a little zombie finger.
Amazing. I love this.
But now I know for next time, don't leave the bottle of alcohol in the kitchen.
There you go. That's it. Or fill up a glass with bourbon and then realize you are drinking it way too fast for the quantity of bourbon that you have. And you have to do a show.
The show is just like, as most slumber parties go, we're just going to get progressively more drunk as it goes.
Amazing.
We're going to make some wild accusations. It's going to be fun.
Wonderful. So what shall we talk about then?
Do we want to talk about how we got into horror in the first place?
Yes.
So, yes, how did you get into horror?
I mean, it's hard to very pinpoint it because I was always kind of like a creepy kid. And I say creepy kid, like I always loved, like, I think I remember as a child going to see my mom and asking her if the Addams Family could be my family. Like, so it's like I've always been into like kind of creepy things. I I do recall the first horror movie I ever saw was Poltergeist 3 on TV.
Oh my god, that's such a random movie to see.
I know.
I can't remember my first movie, but like Poltergeist 3 is such a random film to watch.
I know, it's super random, and I've been wanting to rewatch it since, because all I remember, and that's coming from a kid's brain. I was like an avid movie watcher, because as a kid, my grandma would babysit me, and my grandma's a huge movie fan. You know, she used to like watch like old Hollywood films, so like she like educated my knowledge of cinema, and like it helped educate my knowledge of cinema and everything. So it's like she would let me watch stuff on TV, and then Poltergeist 3 was unlike anything I had seen, because that little girl, all I remember is that she would disappear in puddles and she would disappear in mirrors. And from a kid's mind, it's so mind blowing. It's like so cool. Cause like, also I was kind of like a loner kid playing on my own. So it's like, what do you want to do? Hey, I want to disappear in a mirror, or like, I want to like, dive into a puddle and like disappear elsewhere. So that kind of like really got me intrigued. But then afterwards, like I saw Child's Play, and I was way too young to see Child's Play, and I had tons of dolls, so that kind of killed my love of horror films for a few years, by like the time it took me to get over Chucky's like trauma. And now, by the way, I'm like total huge Chucky fan. I just had like a Chucky revival in the past year.
Watching the TV show?
Not yet. I want to watch it. It's on. I'm waiting for the show to be done so I can binge it in one sitting.
It's good. I've been like I got Stack TV just so I could watch it, and I'm like, nice. Yes, give me all of the Jennifer Tilly. Like,
I know. Oh, she's such a goddess. She's amazing.
Such a goddess.
Yeah.
Like, let's put it out into the universe now that Jennifer Tilly, if you ever see this, please come on our show.
We promise to be more focused and professional, but still tons of fun.
It'll be fun, and we won't be weird. It'll be cool.
I promise. Yeah.
Super chill about it.
Yeah. So yeah, but anyways, long story short, because obviously I cannot ever be concise when I'm talking, and that's something hopefully I will learn, while doing this podcast. Books is actually, and I'm saying this because I know, we both like, connect on that level.
Yes, love books.
I was really like horror books was really my gateway. And in my case, like I know Goosebumps is a big popular one for everyone. Again, I'm a very weird kid. Mine was like the point horror. Mostly because I think in Quebec, point horror, and like mind you, like I'm talking when I was like 7, 8 years old, point horrors got translated in French earlier than Goosebumps, so for the longest time, these were the only ones I could find. And I still have some of them.
Oh my god, look at those title pages. They're so good.
Yeah, I mean, oh my god, literally I have 100 of those. There's like, I think 100 of them came out. I have all 100 of them in French. I tried to reread them like this year, and it's like, oh my god, the translation is so bad. It's garbage literature, like now with like adult eyes. But anyways, it got me into horror. So yeah, you could see like, oh my
god, I love it so much.
It's so cool, yeah.
I had never heard of these books until you brought them up, and now I'm like, I can read French. Like,
and also, but but they're American. They're an American series. It's just like, I think because they were like running a little bit. I don't know. I think they were running in parallel to Goosebumps, or like maybe a little bit older. But yeah,
maybe I feel like Goosebumps was. Why is there no copyright in this book? Oh, Goosebumps was like early 90s. Like this is 1993. So I feel
here this one 1990. So this one.
Yeah, they were pretty much in tandem with each other.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously like later on in life, as a good geeky teenager, then it transitioned.
I love it. I definitely have like the Sunnydale High yearbook somewhere.
Oh, me too. Yeah, totally. Yeah, so yeah, as a teen, I was a huge Buffy fan. Still kind of am today. Also, those were some of the first books I read in English when my English got to be good enough. And then afterwards, it was like Edgar Allan Poe and trying to read Stephen King. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. I was like a child reading Stephen King books and being like, I kind of get this, but also like reading it as a child, I was like, wait, what are these guys doing? Why do they think if they all have sex that they will escape Pennywise?
Yeah, it's fun.
But yeah, actually, it's fine. All right.
Yeah, funny enough, because it's bringing me to like, what I'm currently reading is like I'm currently rereading Geralds Game.
Oh, a classic.
Because I remembered that being a book I really loved as a teen. I think I was like 12 when I tried to read it. And now obviously I'm reading it now. I'm like, I never read that book before.
Yeah,
You know, it's like I physically read it, but I did not read it. Because I think when you're 12 and realize the content of that book, the point when just like
just over the head. Yep.
like, you know, totally. I just remembered liking it back then. And I remember I think I really liked the cover as well. Like, especially
strictly based on covers.
like you did, yeah, and especially and that one I read it in French, but like the French cover was like just the open handcuff with like some blood dripping, from the bedpost. I was like, oh my god, it was like such an alluring, like, cover. I remember going to the library and seeing it and being all like, it was like nice and thick, and I'm all like, ooh, this is gonna be my grown-up book. And like obviously, yeah, I was an unsupervised child. It's okay, but I mean, this is why I have the awesome wealth of random shit knowledge that I have today.
We grew up in a time before, smartphones, and like my parents were very much like, when street lights come on, you come home, but they didn't know where I was. They didn't know what I was doing. But
exactly.
The books that I grew up with were, obviously like Goosebumps, but also like obsessively read Christopher Pike, and like,
well, see, Christopher Pike is one of the author of the Point Horror series, and so is R.L. Stine, so like all of these authors, yeah, it's just a Point Horror. It's just like a big, huge collection of like all of these different authors, but a lot of them, they're like known, like, YA and like kid horror like authors, so.
Yeah. And then I also grew up in a house where like my older brother and my mom, they all read Stephen King. So I've been reading like Stephen King books for like ever, and I love them. And there was for such a long time where I was like, okay, guys, there was this Stephen King, I think it was a mini series, and it was in like this small town, and this dude showed up to town, and like he wanted to like, he needed to them to sacrifice someone. They all decided, and like that would be me for my entire childhood, and people being like, what did your parents let you watch? I'm like, no, it worked. But I think like he wore like a Letterman coat. Why can't I think of what this movie is called? It's Storm of the Century, I think.
Yeah, something. Yeah,
I have vivid memories of like watching that as a child. And
that's
then
amazing.
As a child, I read this book here called House of Illusions by Ruby Jean Jensen.
Nice.
It was like one of those things where we'd be driving up north and like to go to the cottage and stuff, and we stopped off, and there was like that discount bin of books that's like, if you go to small towns, like gas stations always had like weird discount bins of books. This is where I got that. And it had a holographic cover, and it was called House of Illusions. And I'm like, there's no way it's going to be a bad read. It is a book I should not have read at a young age, even though it features all these small children. But it's like, there's this traveling carnival and aliens come and everyone's very sexy and then they die. And it's like, oh no, that's not a book for kids.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I think none of the shit that we watched or read was for kids, but we did it anyways. And look at how we turned out. We have a horror show.
Exactly. Now we're talking about all those things.
That's
and like definitely growing up, like Addams Family was like, I'm pretty sure the first introduction to like horror, because I was like, oh, this is a family I relate with. Like I'm spooky. Like I would much rather watch this than watch any Disney movie, because I could not relate to Disney princesses. I did not get the appeal.
Oh no.
Like, why do you
why the first equivalent of a Disney princess was like Winona Ryder in Beetlejuice, with the red dress, and then Winona Ryder in Edward Scissorhands. So for me, Winona Ryder has always been a Disney princess growing up. Like, I wanted to be Lydia, then I wanted to be, I forgot what her name was, but I was so in love with Edward Scissorhands growing up. Like, I know it's not horror, but it's horror adjacent,
it's the Tim Burton world, which is always kind of, spooky. So I'm like, I feel you on that. But yeah, like Winona Ryder, she was like my queen growing up.
Me too. But see, another horror thing that you could probably relate to as a Canadian.
Yes, as a Canadian.
Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yes.
Which was a wonderful show. I remember racing home from school to make sure not to miss it, because it was playing at like 4:30 in the afternoon, So.
The one episode that like fucked me up forever is, I can't think of what the title's called, but it's the one in the pool with that guy who is like basically just all covered in blood and just coming out of the water.
Yes.
That dude fucked me up forever. And like recently we were in Niagara Falls and we were at like a restaurant, and they were, because it was around Halloween weekend. So they were just playing random TV shows, and that popped up. And I remember just being mid-bite and being like, that's the episode. That's the episode that ruined my childhood.
That's amazing. I don't think I don't remember any episode like ruining my childhood, but one of them stuck with me was like the theater where like they're playing the Nosferatu type film, and then a vampire like comes out of the screen and he's just like he's got the bunny ears, like not the bunny ears, the bunny fangs, you know, like yeah.
Oh my god, yes, that. Also, did you ever watch Erie, Indiana?
No, never.
That was another like it was kind of more like the show Goosebumpsy, where it was creepy, but it was like creepy for children.
Mm-hmm.
But it was along those same lines where it was like, here's a new scary story for you little kids this week. And like the one that always tripped me up was there was a whole episode based on like Tupperware and how
oh my god, really?
how they stayed young forever was because they all slept in Tupperware. And I was like, and then that's how I got into MLMs. I was like, oh my god, if I sell Tupperware, I'll be young forever.
That's amazing. I love this so much.
I also shows during COVID, and I was like, this show is gold. Everyone should be watching Erie, Indiana.
Yeah, now I kind of want to watch it. See, you know what? I did try to rewatch around that time because I graduated then to the XFiles, which was like pretty much one of the horror, like the only horror-ish, option back then,
horror sci-fi-esque show.
Yeah, I remember like some episodes being creepy, but like now I'm like rewatching them today. Like I don't know if it's just because of like what we're used to now, but I'm all like, oh, there's some of them. I'm like, they're tedious to get through,
Yeah, you're like, this is real cheese fest.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god, yeah, it was like X-Files and Outer Limits.
Oh yes, I remember. Oh yeah, I love that. Outer Limit was so much good. Yeah.
Oh, I want to like find out if that's streaming anywhere and rewatch that show because I feel like I rewatch like X-Files a lot because at some point it was on Netflix and at some point it was on Prime and I was like, okay, we get it. Yeah. Give me Outer Limits though. I want to revisit that stuff.
Yes, that was so good. Yeah. And did you have a vampire phase?
Oh yeah, we all had like I had the fangs, and every now and then I went to school, but like not often because I was definitely gonna get made fun of.
Yeah. No, I know the same way. I wanted to be a vampire. I was obsessed with Anne Rice and like all the vampire books and like which I've also tried to reread, and it's funny when realizing the kind of stuff you like as a teenager and how it does not age that well. Like, Yeah.
My whole thing was like I really liked horror, but then I also kind of really liked like R&B music because I was a dancer. So they cast Aaliyah as Akasha in Queen of the Damned. I was like, this is the greatest thing they're ever going to do. You cannot top this. It will be the greatest movie ever made. Then you watch it and you're like,
what a disappointment. Yeah.
You're like, oh, so that was a movie. Good for Aaliyah. And then she died midway through filming. So then you watch it and you're like, well, I feel like I can't say anything about this because she's dead.
I know.
Like straight up, like, okay, I'm not going to turn my camera, but I have the poster framed because I'm like, fuck it. You know what? Screw everybody. I love it.
Yeah.
But it feels like it's a rough watch.
Yeah. I feel like vampire is a genre that, like, it's like, would need a cool revival, Yeah. Obviously, a recent series aside, that I'm not going to mention to not spoil it for those who have not seen it yet, but
I just feel like I need like a vampire series that relies less on it being like sexy vampires and more being like with tear some people apart and drink their blood.
I know, exactly, because that's what vampires are.
Yeah, I was really into the Dracula Netflix series that happened.
Oh, was that good? I didn't see that. Yeah.
It was good and it's very well acted. I cannot think of the guy's name, but it's very well acted. And I think it's long. Like they're like hour and a half long episodes, but there's 3, I think.
Okay.
And they kind of touch on the fact that like Dracula may have been bisexual. And it's like, well, obviously, if he's going to drink blood, is he only going to find ladies to drink blood from? No, he's going to drink blood from.
Yeah. Okay, then I might check it out. There was one series with what's his name? I can't think. The hot Irish actor with big pouty lips who was in Velvet Goldmine. That guy.
The hot Irish.
Is it Jonathan Rhys-Meyer?
Butler, but then I'm like, he was.
Jonathan Rhys-Meyer. Wait, okay, I'm gonna have to Google. I don't have my fingers. Yeah, that's it. The guy who was also in The Tudors.
Yeah, wait, what Dracula show was he on?
He was Dracula in the Dracula show that just was shortly lived, I think.
Oh, I don't know if I watched that, but I would watch
Yeah.
that. I think I love him. I think he's so good.
Yeah,
Like, what is he doing now? I feel like I haven't seen him in anything in so long.
I know.
And he's such a little cutie.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not the same Dracula. Okay, so I will check it out. I guess that might be my homework for whenever I'm done with all the giallos in the world, you know.
You're never gonna be doing giallos. You're gonna be like
I'm gonna be watching giallos till the day I die. Oh my god. Yeah.
mm-hmm. No, okay. I will say though, the best vampire series is What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh yeah. Oh
like,
yeah.
It's just
It's hilarious.
The movie was hilarious, and I watched it so many times, and they made it into a TV show, and it stars Matthew Berry, and I'm like, well, okay, you know what? I'm sold. You have my heart forever.
Yeah. But you know, it's like arguably, even if it's not that I agree with you in terms of series, even if it's not purely horror, like, you know, what I feel is the best vampire movie is Only Lovers Left Alive.
I love Only Lovers Left Alive.
Because yeah, that's it. It feels to me like this is the movie that is the closest thing to like reading a vampire novel.
Yeah.
You know, it's because it's like, and I mean, when I say vampire novel, I mean like the classic like 90s vampire novel, like, you know, the philosophical and like, you know, the emotional like pain of like being a vampire and like being doomed to live forever. Like, yeah, I know, it's that feeling. Yeah.
And also just Tom Hiddleston and Tilda Swinton. Like,
I know, it's good.
Like, you sell me on that alone, and then you throw Anton Yelchin into the mix, and I'm like,
I know, and it's like, oh, but also like the soundtrack. Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm totally gonna be the annoying one. I'm such a soundtrack gal. You know, it's like I got the soundtrack on vinyl. I'm like that way. You know,
I love it. No, I have the movie poster. It's not on my wall yet because I don't have space, but I'll probably end up switching out that vampire one there. Can you see it?
The girl walking along the night. Yeah.
Which I'm like, gotta rep. Yeah. But no, I love that one. I also like. I think my only beef with those kind of movies is the idea that, and a lot of Dracula films, if they go back into the history of that person playing Dracula, it's always like, oh yeah, I'm Dracula, and I drank champagne at Versailles, and I partied with Mozart, and it's like, did you?
No.
Like, were you there when all this stuff went down?
Fuck no.
Like, I want a lame Dracula who was like, no, I've been living for 400 years in poverty, and
in the sewers, eating on rats.
Yep. Like, I don't have any. All my friends are dead. All my family is dead. It sucks. I'm not rich. I don't get to party with all these cool people throughout history.
I know, exactly. Yeah. So what would you say your favorite movie is? Because you know, we've been gushing and talking about vampires. Like, do you have any favorite horror subgenre? I figure I'm also seeing the counter. I don't want to bore our audience with like some random gush fest. But hey, if you want us to do a whole entire episode talking about vampire and vampire movies, and
we could find a vampire guest to bring in.
Just comment below and let us know if that's what you want us to talk about, you know. But yeah, just I have the feeling I kind of like at this point in time, I don't want to be known as a vampire girl because that was like 15-year-old me, not me anymore.
They can be the vampires, but they can leave that in the past.
Yeah, exactly.
I was thinking about this too because like obviously horror has a shit ton of subgenres, like
all of them.
And I think like I had to narrow it down to my top 3, and I'm probably going to end up going back on this and being like, no, I changed my mind. It's these 3 now.
It's okay. I changed my top 10 of all movies like every month.
Like, so every month I see something new and I'm like, that's my new favorite movie.
Yeah.
But haunted house movies, like old creaky, because I always want to live in one. And I was in a haunted house, but let's be real, we all want to live in the practical magic house.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I love a good possession movie, whether it's like a toy being possessed or a person being possessed or a house being possessed. I'd love the idea of someone like not having control. And a good psychological thriller, like something that you're going to watch and at the end of it be like, wait, what? What the fuck just happened?
Nice. I love this. I'm a huge fan of psychological thrillers too. Yeah.
Heck yeah. What are your like favorite subgenres?
I guess, well, I mean, obviously Giallos currently, because I mean, I think if I was not into them, I'd just like stop watching them. But I think though my Giallo obsession is more purely aesthetic, you know, because I mean, I love movie from that era. Like I love the Giallo aesthetic, and I love things with like, you know, sex and gore. You know, as weird as it sounds, but it's like I love those like swinging 60s like sex parties. I mean, like, you know, it's like I know this wasn't representative of those times, you know, but it's like part of me is just like I've been watching so many giallos. Is like, fuck, I want to go back to the 60s. Everybody had sex parties on Sundays, you know. It's like,
why aren't we bringing back this Sunday sex party?
I know, it's like I love the fashion and everything. To me, it's like purely aesthetically, like fashion of like the fashion of giallos, the look of giallo, this like, you know, the sexuality that's like just like these like exotic clubs where you have like random women like just like dancing and doing these little shows, and like nobody, it's not even, there's zero skills at play, but like everybody's just there watching. I'm like, this is wonderful. But yeah, I love giallos, but that's mostly a side effect. My favorite subgenre, and I know it's not this, I really love slashers. You know, I love a really good slasher. I'm one of those, that is my favorite. Sorry, it's like I can remember my favorite horror film, like the original Canadian, like, you know, slasher, the OG, man. You know, it's so good. Like, you know, I mean, I love a good slasher. I really love body horror as well. Like, you know, because I mean, I don't know, I like it. I like disturbing shit. I like things that make me like go, ugh. Like, you know, and like apparently body horror is the only thing that kind of make me go like sometimes.
Like some solid like Cronenberg body horror, I'm like so here for. I'm like,
I know.
Let's see,
like I know
somebody's armpit. Like
I know. I just realized I'm painfully Canadian in my taste because I think like body horror is such a Canadian thing too. So I'm like, oh, like favorite horror movie, Canadian horror slasher.
On body horror.
I know, exactly. Yeah, but it's okay. I'm like, I'm okay in it right now with with the fact that generally in life I'm painfully Canadian, but it's okay. I assume this part of my personality. Exactly. So yeah, so I'll say slasher, body horror, and psychological thriller. Yeah. But I like psychological thriller when there's an occult element to it as well. I know it's like super niche.
But like I get it too, because like I am fascinated by cults, even not in like the horror world, but like just cults in general. Because also, and this is like full disclosure, I feel like if someone from a cult were to talk to me, I'd be like, fuck yeah, I'll join your cult. Like almost instantly, I'd be like, that sounds fun.
Yeah, exactly.
But then they'd probably kick me out when they're like, okay, but you have to give us money. I'd be like, oh, LOL.
Yeah, I know, right?
Psychology.
No, exactly. Yeah. Tell us who you would like to see on the show, who would like to see come to our slumber parties, what you'd like us to talk, like, you know, any questions you would like us to answer, because I think eventually it'd be fun to do some fan rounds, you know, of like answering questions of like, you know, what people like, you know, that people would want us to answer. So tweet at us, and we're also on Facebook and Instagram. You should find us easily with Let's Scream, but I have a feeling we're a bit more active on Twitter for that. So yeah, bye.